Hey guys, I am here to talk about my project, The Spread of Negativity. This project is centered around the spread of negative news. The big thing that people think of is good news spreads slowly, bad news spreads quickly, but why? Why does bad news spread so quickly, and is it having a negative effect? And is it worse than it was before? And from the literature that I've looked at, yes, bad news is spreading faster and faster than ever before, largely due to the social media algorithms that run the way that we distribute information. So, my project is looking into exactly how this works, how this happens in both the algorithms in our brains, and what can we do about it. So, from the literature that I've seen, it looks like a large part of how this works is these algorithms don't actually push negative news, they push what we are most focused on. And what we are most focused on is negative things. So, why are we most focused on negative things? Turns out we have a bit of a negativity bias that forms around what's called a negativity valence. Essentially, when our brains are working in automatic mode, we are significantly more likely to focus on negative information. One study looked at where exactly in the processing this happens, and it happens in early stimulus identification. Uh, what they have found helps is being able to be more intentional in the way you think. So, mindfulness therapies have shown very good results with lowering how negative our thinking is. Uh, the exact mechanism is called reactivity. So when we see something, we react to it in an emotional capacity. And that emotional capacity, when it's automatic, is more likely to be negative. Using mindfulness techniques, we can reduce this emotional reaction, reduce how much the stimulus is affecting us emotionally, in order to dull down the negative reaction. What's interesting is it doesn't increase positive reaction, it only reduces negative reaction. And this is consistent between pretty much everyone. Uh, so, what I wanted to look into was how do we use this kind of mindfulness training to counteract what's happening with the social media systems of we react to something negatively, so we pay more attention to it, so the algorithms see that and then feed us back that information that we're paying attention to, which we react to negatively, and it kind of snowballs. So how do we inject something to slow down that effect, to stop telling the social media algorithms that we're focusing on more negative things? So I started with a interview an interview case where we interview multiple people to get their personal reaction and how they feel when they interact with our modern social media information dissemination. And the general purpose is to get ourselves out of this high-minded, like, this is how people are reacting to things, and like putting that on people and getting their actual reactions. How do people actually feel when they doom scroll, or when they in more positive cases just like look up the news on their phone? And we will use the data that we get from these personal experiences to create a more humanistic perspective on if this is even really a problem for people. Like, maybe, yes, it's not the most negative, not the most positive thing in the world, but maybe it doesn't affect them as much. The next study was a correlational study that seeks to find the connection between anxiety and what are called primals. In this specific case, how is someone's outlook on the world? Do they have a basically positive or negative outlook on the world? The reason that I did this study is to try and get a connection with reactivity and how someone sees the world. To try and see how this cycle could be affecting people in a more actualized way. So theoretically, we see all this information, it increases our anxiety, and that reactivity and anxiety should correlate in some way with a more negative worldview. And there's a couple of studies that show that negative worldview is correlated with specifically doom scrolling and with being exposed to large amounts of negative information. But I wanted to see if this is people processing that negative information or the anxiety from that negative information affecting people. This gives us a stronger idea of how this reactivity mechanism works. The final study is the intervention study, an experiment where we take two groups of large amounts of people and we have them use a social media platform that we create that exposes them to a certain amount of news stories, both positive and negative. And at the end of perusing these social media sites, we have them share one video to try and conceptualize how likely someone is to share positive versus negative videos. At first, the idea is they'll be sharing a lot more negative videos. But we later add an intervention. So we're recording how many negative versus positive articles are being shared. Then we add the intervention of a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. A course that goes weekly for 2 months. And every week, we gauge how many negative versus positive news articles are being shared on this site that they're using while they're going through mindfulness-based stress reduction training. Hopefully, we'll see that the amount of negative articles being shared will go down, showing that this reduction in reactivity as a result of mindfulness-based stress reduction training, as we've seen in other studies, will not just affect how likely someone is to perceive something as negative or positive or focus on negative or positive, but how likely they are to share negative or positive information, thereby reducing the likelihood of more negative things being spread than positive things. Anyways, that's basically my final project. Thanks for watching.